What would you do if you knew you had less than 8 minutes to live?
I'd make those seconds count. Welcome back, Em.
I was unable to find the bomber.
We've been informed there'll be another attack in 6 hours. If you find the bomber, the next attack can be prevented.
As always, you will have 8 minutes.
I'm obviously doing a huge amount of press to sort of support this film and let people know about it, hopefully. And while I'm flying, I'm writing. So I'm actually in the middle of writing right now, and what's hopefully going to be my third film, which will be a hardcore, good old-fashioned action sci-fi film that I'm very excited about. And my last sci-fi film, I think, for a while. So, 3 sci-fis and I'm out.
Would you ever be tempted to put your dad in as like a cameo villain or something in a sci-fi
Cameo
film?
villain?
Yeah, I know.
I love my dad. I think he's a great actor, and I hugely admire what he's done in his own career. I think when I'll know that I'm ready to put him in something when people don't ask me. I'll know I've made enough films on my own.
Talk a little bit about the dynamic of shooting, because it was almost like not watching 2 different movies, but the feel of when they're on the train and compared to when he's in that capsule and all he has is the screen. I mean, that to me was the biggest throwback to the old school sci-fi, where you just got him conversing with this monitor with this person on the other side. How did you approach that look compared to the normalcy of the train?
Sure. Well, there's a very, very practical difference between the look, the sort of the texture of that footage. We shot on 2 different camera formats. We shot on 35mm for the stuff on the train, and then in the lab environment, and then we shot on the red camera for what we call the pod, which is sort of an environment where Coulter finds himself in between missions. And I got very excited. I saw a still frame that David Fincher had shot with Leonardo DiCaprio, where supposedly the whole scene was lit by a single match. And I don't know if that's true or not, but it looked amazing. And I was like, wow, this new red camera is good. We got to get one of them. So I started off. It was a geeky reaction to a still I'd seen from David Fincher, and then we ended up using it. And Don Burgess, being who he is, was able to make it look great. So.
All right. Yeah, I think those were some of my favorite scenes, even just from the dynamic between, because you don't for a while realize, what kind of form he's in, that there isn't really that body form. He's just imagining what he would be.
Well, I mean, again, it's also so much to do with the actors. Vera Farmiga is an amazing performer and incredibly nuanced, and is able to communicate so much in a lot of the time in a box. Maybe she should have presented news as well. No, she's an amazing performer. So we were really lucky to have her.
And the cinematography, the opening sequences, it had a whole new feel to it for me. I mean, everybody does that. The cityscapes. It was just really astonishing.
It's like I said, the big difference between Moon and this is I got to get out of the studio. So we were in a helicopter, and just exciting. Fun to do that.
You talked about this a little bit before, but about you and Jake kind of collaborating in terms of creating his character, but also kind of collaborating on kind of getting the film kick-started as well. Can you kind of talk about what sort of role he had kind of behind the scenes in this a little bit?
Yeah, I was very fortunate. Jake was incredibly supportive of me. He had seen Moon and had admired the film and loved what Sam Rockwell was doing in that film, and he came to me saying that he wanted to work with me, in a collaborative way and try and support whatever it is that I wanted to do. So I was very, very fortunate. He was in my corner the whole time. As far as it was other than the initial reaction that I had to the script, which was, I think we can lighten the tone and I think it'll help the film. He was really willing to just sort of step back and let me run with that idea. So once I'd convinced him that was the move that I would make on the script, he agreed to it, and the 2 of us convinced all the producers. To be honest, that's the big difference between doing a little British independent film and taking that step up into Hollywood, is all of a sudden you've got like 7 layers of producers that you have to bring with you with every decision you make. So that's kind of that's the big change, and that was a learning curve for me. But I have to admit, the timing on getting the BAFTA was perfect, because I was going through that process of having to convince people every decision that I made for the first few weeks. And then I disappeared for the weekend and came back with the BAFTA, and all of a sudden everyone's doing what I asked. So it was pretty good.
So I liked how you approached it. You said that you answered all the questions that you would have wanted answered. I remember at one point toward the end of the movie, I thought, well, how is he communicating with them? And
Yeah.
right afterward, I saw the text and answered the
Great,
question.
good. Then that timing was right then.
Yeah. So I was wondering, was there anything that you left open to interpretation?
That's a good question. I'm sure that there are hanging elements in there. I think as a filmmaker and working with Paul, the editor, there are things which drive the narrative forward, and there are questions that you have to answer in order to make the story work, and then there's always going to be an extra list of things that it would be nice to explain, but which don't drive the story forward. And sometimes you just have to let those ones hang. So I'm sure I know that there are probably little things here and there, and that's what websites are for.
Yeah.
So, to find those and list them and vilify you for them.
Have you been able to watch this film with an audience yet?
No, not with an audience. No. So no, South by Southwest is going to be a really fun time. I hope. No, it should be good. It should be a good time.
Did you actually film Principal in Chicago?
No, we were in Montreal for the majority of our shoot. We had a couple of days, obviously, to get the helicopter footage, and then there's I don't want to give too much away, but there's a section of the film that takes place at a location in Chicago. Yeah, a landmark in Chicago, which would not have been possible in any other way.
Last question. Anybody wants to do it?
Should we have 8 more minutes?
Yeah, let's do this again.
On the Moon, you were working with like a $5 million budget.
Yeah.
And now you had a lot more money to work with, and you're doing this big press tour. I mean, what's that leap like?
Surprisingly less. It's less different than you'd imagine. Mainly because we had a window of opportunity to work with Jake Gyllenhaal. He had just finished Prince of Persia. He had to go and do press for Prince of Persia. So we had to fit within this window of availability that he had. And because of those time pressures, all of a sudden it felt like there wasn't enough time, there wasn't enough money, and everything had to be done. We had to be clever about how we did things. And I think that's always good. That's good for filmmaking, I think, to have those kind of pressures on you. I think when you have all the time in the world and all the money you need, that's when you get sloppy.
Yeah.
So I think those kind of pressures are probably a good thing.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks. Great job, man.
Thank you. Thank you so
Good
much.
follow-up.
It's the same train, but it's different.
You're kind of freaking me out.
I want to go back in. I'm going to save her.
You can't. Doesn't work that way.
Christina is dead.
Try and stop me. Sean! Get back!
Source code.